Hi friends, it's Sarah, the owner and maker behind Multifarious Nature. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are a new viewer, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, a big welcome back. I'm glad you guys are here for another episode. This week's podcast will probably be on the shorter end of things because, well, I primarily worked on something I can't talk about. So I'll talk a little bit about the projects that I worked on a little bit. Hopefully the sound is much better this time. I did a test recording, and I have no idea why it was so soft last week. I guess the microphone was tipped sideways when I recorded. That really shouldn't make a difference because it's still technically near my face, but for some reason it was really quiet. So either I was extremely soft spoken last week, which that I guess that can happen, but in my mind I wasn't, but I guess it's possible. It's very possible. So I'm so sorry about that. Unfortunately, the way things are, I do not edit my videos, so I literally record them, upload them, and share them for all of you to enjoy. So sorry about that. Last week's was extremely quiet. Hopefully, the other video that I recorded isn't extremely quiet. That would be a bummer. You guys will have already seen it, but I yeah, the other one that I recorded has to do with um what is it? It's the like what to knit with indie dyed yarn. I recorded that the same day that I recorded the other one, so hopefully that one's not super quiet too. Um one of these days I will figure it out. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll edit videos. I'm not making promises though because I really don't want to edit videos. I, I just don't have the capacity of time to do that right now. So, and I don't really foresee that getting I don't really foresee my capacity expanding anytime soon. I actually see it getting more intense at some point. So yeah, I'm sorry, but hopefully this week's is good. I did do a test, and I do feel like I'm yelling a little bit, so hopefully it's not really loud on the other end for you guys. But the good news is, if it's loud, you can turn it down, right? At least that's it, because you can't turn it up if it's at max volume and you can't hear me. So that's a bummer. Have some nice Earl Grey decaf that I'm drinking because it is 6 o'clock basically p.m. and I don't really want to be drinking caffeine at this hour. I'll be up all night. Um, as far as newsletter, shop update end of things. So for those of you that were able to partake in the birthday sale, I'm glad you did. If you missed out, I'm sorry. Again, make sure that you subscribe to the newsletter. That is the best way to find out about those deals, and it is the best deal that you will get. I usually do most of my discounts actually through the newsletter. That is really the way to get sale information and be the first to find out about new listings that are coming out. As far as the birthday sale, that was the best deal, but I did offer another special deal that wasn't quite as steep as that of a discount, but there was a discount for Instagram followers and YouTube followers. So I hope you were able to partake if you wanted to. And if you missed out, make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. You can do that by going to multifariousnature.com. It should pop up as a do you want to subscribe to the newsletter? If it doesn't, there is a section at the bottom that'll say newsletter. If you click on that, you can fill out the information and subscribe. If you have any issues, please do. You can do the contact me section, and I'm happy to add you to the newsletter list. I've done it before, and I have no problem doing that. So it's always fun. I do not bombard you guys with a lot of newsletters. I really don't send them out that often at all, except for when once in a while there's some deals going on. If I have new merchandise coming to the shop and I want to share that with you guys, that's usually where I will share it first. So super fun. I do have some new bats that I'll be working on soon because great news. My husband was able to fix my drum carder. So now it works again, which is very exciting. I did do my first 2 runs of my own little bat to test the way it looks, and I'm really liking it. So I'll give you guys a sneak peek on that. And I meant to bring it over here, so bear with me as I make a bunch of noise. And okay, still have volume. I hope so. So the next bats that I'm going to be working on is another purebred breeds. I guess you could call it breed study. It's not really a breed study. There'll be 100-gram skeins or skeins, 100-gram bats, and they are made on my drum carder. I usually run them through at least 4 times. It does depend on the wool. This is Tunis yarn. That's the next one I'm going to be doing, is Tunis. And this is only run through twice. I do want to run it through at least one more time because you can maybe you can kind of see that. You see how it's kind of still like needs to be blended a little bit. So I want to run it through so that it looks nice and smooth like this, where it's all nice and smooth. So this is just 50-gram bat. This is for me. This is like the leftover when I split it up. And it's super soft. You guys, I don't know if you can see it. I think you can. I can see it. There's a beautiful sheen to this. Tunis is very shiny. It's a really pretty, I think it's considered a medium wool. They're actually a very old breed, and there's not a lot of breeders in the U.S., but they are coming back, I guess, because apparently they were a big deal, I think, with George Washington, is my understanding. So that's kind of cool. Um, but yes, so I've never worked with tunas before. So I thought, how fun is that? That I could share this with you guys. So I am actually going to do up a bunch of 100-gram bats, and that will be coming to the shop soon. Again, make sure you're subscribed to that newsletter so you'll be the first to find out, because you will want to jump on over and nab them as soon as possible if you want them, because I always do a limited amount. It's literally one fleece that I divide up. I will be down the pipeline here. I have some really nice blends I want to make. So I will be also making some bats that are blended. At some point, I probably will, because I do hand dye yarn. I probably will dye some fleece and blend them, but at the moment I'm sticking more with the natural colors. This is Tunis, so it has kind of a reddish golden color to it. It's very pretty, and that's kind of their coloring. That's their primary coloring. Um, as far as like different breeds, I do have some alpaca that I want to blend with some things. I've got some really fun stuff down the pipeline, and I'll just be working with natural colors at the moment. And I just think that's a lot of fun. I personally love trying purebred or pure breeds just to try how that is. But I have no problem with crosses as well. I think that's great. And so if I can get my hands on some mystery fleeces, which is probably a lot of these, I did get quite a few fleeces that are kind of mystery fleeces. They may be purebred Suffolk or something like that, but some might be crosses, and I don't know for sure. So those will definitely be things that I might be blending and stuff like that, just so that you can have some fun, some really fun colors. I've got some grays coming. I have all kinds of fun stuff. So if you are into spinning it all and you want to get your hands on some prepared hand processed wool that does contain lanolin, always put the disclaimer out there, does contain lanolin, because at the moment I am working with fleeces that I do leave some lanolin in there, and I love that. And yeah, so if you have lanolin sensitivity, keep that in mind. But otherwise, there you go. So that's kind of the shop update end of things. So make sure you get subscribed to that newsletter, because I don't want you guys to miss out if you want to get your hands on some of that wool. All right. Next, we're going to talk about my works in progress. So like I said, that unfortunately, the mystery test knit that I'm working on, I worked on quite a bit, and I had made a mistake. I don't know how I managed to do it. So you just really need to read patterns carefully sometimes. And I made a oops, and it was kind of a big oops. So I really had to go back to almost the beginning, and it's all good. So I really worked a lot on that. It's a lot easier to do once you kind of know what you're doing. It took me half the time to kind of make up what I screwed up, if that makes any sense. So that's a good thing. So that's primarily what I worked on this week, but I did work just a touch on some of my other projects, so I'll talk about those here. First is my frame sweater by Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits. I am using all kinds of fun wool. We made just a little touch of progress. Like, I think just like 5 rounds. I did not do a lot. I'm not going to pretend like I did a lot. I did just a little bit. So I think it was like, actually, it might be more than 5 rounds, maybe 7. But this is only the progress that I made here. So I'm really getting close to finishing the repeat that I'm doing, and then I only do half a repeat, and then that sleeve is done. So, well, and then I do ribbing for the cuff. So I'm getting there pretty quickly because they're kind of a cropped sleeve. They're not, I think they're kind of bracelet length. They're almost, actually, they're more like 3/4 length. If I can look at the photo here, I think they're just, yeah, a little over your elbow. So they're a little longer than like 3/4 length, but you can see here how she's got it. It's like, there's her wrist. So they're about bracelet length, just a little bit shorter. Because I feel like 3/4, I guess it's 3/4. It's kind of 3/4. It's a 3/4 length sleeve. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a 3/4 length sleeve, which I love. I'm definitely a bracelet length person, and 3/4 is right in my wheelhouse. It won't get in my way while I'm trying to do things, so I love that. The yarns that I'm using, as a reminder, a whole bunch. So I've got handspun in here. So that's what this is. This is CVM, the gray. It's so beautiful. I really like CVM. It is definitely one of my favorites to work with. All you merino lovers, don't hate me, but I do love working with CVM over merino. I do. It's my preference. And then this beautiful color changing yarn here is Stonehenge Fiber Mill. They are a fiber producer out of Michigan. I love supporting my local people, and they do all kinds of fun stuff. This is called Crazy Yarn, and their yarn, it's all different. Every single skein is different. And here I just wanted to show you, in case you're not familiar with Crazy Yarn, this is what it looks like. So it's considered sport weight yarn, and it's usually about 230 yards, 2.5 ounces. It's very pretty, and they're all different colors, totally different colors. I've got tons of different ones, and they're just really fun. I'm trying to think if I've got another one around here. I don't, but this is another one right here that I'm working with currently. So you can see how pretty that is. Isn't that gorgeous? I love that raspberry red with that deep purple. So pretty. So I'm not matching. Like, my fade is not going to match. It's not going to match. So I'm going from like just doing my own thing. One thing I am trying to do though is do a little bit of the black on each side. So I did a little on this one. I'm going to put a little on the other sleeve. It probably won't be the exact same amount, but at least it adds like a little bit of cohesiveness. So if you guys do this kind of thing where it's not cohesive in the sense that I'm not going to use the same exact color on my sleeves as in my main part of my shirt, I always try to find something that I can kind of either replicate a little bit in each sleeve or something, so that it makes it kind of cohesive looking. So it looks balanced. I guess that's the word I'm looking for, balanced. Because if I didn't put the black on the sleeves at all and it was just here, because the sleeves are going to line up with this at that point, to me, it's a little too harsh. It's fine, if it doesn't match up a little bit, but I think it's a little harsh. The one thing that is cohesive with the entire piece, no matter what, is the beautiful framery work, right? So it's called the framed sweater, and you're using a solid color on the base, the upper portion here, your shoulders, and then it'll be on the cuffs as well. And that really does bring it to a cohesive nature, right? So it doesn't have to be exact on the sleeves. And I like that. It really does. It does. It frames it in. It makes it look cohesive. It looks a lot like a beautiful quilt. And as much as there are quilts that do look symmetrical and do match in that way, so many quilts, especially like, oh gosh, a long time ago, a lot of times they were scrap quilts. They were quilts that started and were made using remnants of garments that you had in your home that you wore and then wore to death. And then you just used a little bit of that to make your quilt. They didn't want to waste a lot of things. So that's what I really love about this kind of really graphic color changing yarn like this, is it really makes me feel extremely nostalgic to the way quilts were made. And I don't know, it really helps me feel connected to my roots in a way. It's interesting. But this is my hand-dyed yarn. This is my alpaca merino blend, and I held double. because it's a fingering weight. So I'm holding that double, and it's so pretty. Yeah, that's Cherry Hill. That was a limited run colorway. I may bring that back. I really love that colorway. I had quite a few people that really enjoyed it. I love my reds, and apparently you guys do too, which I love. It is so beautiful. It's a deep cherry red color, hence the name Cherry Hill. And I really would like to bring that back because I do think that's really pretty. And especially like for the fall and everything, I just love that color. All right, so that's that one. The other thing that I worked on a little bit, and again, just a little, because I did get sucked into my book a lot during my lunch break. You guys, I got sucked into that book so much that I wasn't knitting, which is so crazy to me. Today I did knit. I needed to knit. But otherwise, I primarily have been reading during my lunch break, which is so crazy. It's nice. It's a nice change just to do something different. But it's so strange for me because I've been knitting so much. I love to knit. So it's interesting how something that was a hobby for me years and years and years ago, and I wanted to come back to it so badly, and then I found this book series that I'm really getting into, and it's kind of pulling me away from knitting, which is crazy. But I still knit at night because I can't read while I'm watching a movie. That just doesn't work. So okay, this is gonna be hard to see where I was at. Anyway, I really have got to get better about moving my progress keeper. You guys should just tell me every time. Put a comment every video. Just say, move your progress keeper as a reminder to myself because this is ridiculous. I think I knit just a touch of this actually. I don't even think I did that much. I think I was like here. I really knit maybe like an inch of stockinette going back and forth. So as you can see, this is the half and half triangles wrap by Pearl Soho. That is a free pattern and I highly recommend it if you want something super meditative. If you are someone who's trying to learn how to knit while you do other things, so while you're reading, while you're watching a movie, I definitely recommend something like this because it's just knitting. You don't really have to pay attention to the style of your stitch. You just need to pay attention that you're actually stitching through your stitches. And you will find very quickly that you can learn what that feels like and you don't have to look down. So this is a really good way to learn how to do that. This is just, like I said, knitting back and forth, back and forth. So as you go, I do the German short rows. There are so many videos out there on how to do this. It's wrap and turn is what the pattern calls for, but a lot of people like to do German short rows more than wrap and turns. I'm one of them. And I'm pretty sure her name is, oh, Stacy. I cannot remember what her podcast is called. Edible Thoughts Makes. I think that's the name of it. Edible Thoughts Makes. And she has a video on doing the German short rows and kind of telling you how to do it. And it's a decent video. That's what I looked at and watched. It was great. And it was so easy to figure out. And I love it. So this is some fun wool blend that I'm using here. It was 3 skeins that I had that I didn't know what to do. It's boucle. So I'm starting with that. And now I'm moving to my my hand dyed yarn. This is Winter is Coming. It's one of my really fun light blue with navy blue speckles, and there's some like light greenish blue in here, kind of teal color. It's really pretty. I thought that was a nice gradation going from here to there, and it's not harsh. It does change texture, the look of it. It's a lot of fun. And so this is my cooler colors. The other one I made, well, you can kind of see the corner of it right up here, or that pink. It is my Strawberry Shortcake colorway and my Kismet colorway, and it's kind of the warmer like pink and kind of an orange sherbety color. So that one is the first one I did, and this one is gonna be more cool colors. So I'm kind of doing blues and greens on this triangle, and then the other half, so that half and half triangle wrap, the other half is gonna be like these deep colors like plums and green. Again, the green's kind of carrying over. So there's that binding cohesion there. It's not exactly the same color. I love that. So that's kind of the fun part. If you're listening to me going, what on earth are you talking about? Is that I love playing with color. I really do. I just love color, and it doesn't intimidate me, and it's really fun. You can do so much with it, and if you're ever like when in doubt, try to pull a little bit of a color in. So like for example, this is going to be your blues and greens, and then the other half is going to be this, which is like, it's a contrast, right? It's a contrast. So when this folded in half, it's going to look really neat. But the part that there's some greens in here, so the green is going to pull into the greens here. They're not identical, and that's fine. But I will say I am going to have this green. Now I'm not sure which side I'm going to be doing this one on, but this is my let's see, balsam fir. This is my balsam fir colorway. It is super beautiful, especially on this base. It is a silk merino. I think this it's either BFL or no, this is merino, silk merino base. There's a really deep blue, like navy blue undertone, kind of almost variegated throughout, so it's not solid. And then I went over that with some different greens, and it really creates this cool moody effect. I love it. It adds like a texture visually, which is really cool. So I think we'll be doing that on the side, because I also have these greens, green and gray blue colors. These are by Woolberry Fiber Co. And I don't know, maybe you guys can kind of see this, but it kind of is cohesive. Even though these are different, if you pull in some color that is from here into the other side, it brings that balance. It adds balance. So it's not so harsh of a contrast. I love that. I kind of like that play, because for me, these half and half triangles wraps, even though they are wraps, I use them more as a blanket. So having that cohesiveness is kind of fun. Like even this one here, this one's more of a contrast. So I did a speckled colorway on the one half, it's Kismet, and then which I think I have just a couple in the shop still, and then strawberry shortcake, which I believe is sold out currently. That's really pretty, like not bubblegum pink, but it's like a Barbie pink, like it's a bright pink to me. And that one has more of that contrast, not only texture wise, right? Visual texture, because you've got speckled and solid, or tonal is what the strawberry shortcake was. It really has that difference, that look itself, but then there's like a little bit of pink in Kismet. So it's kind of fun that it pulls in that color. And so even though it looks very different, it still looks like it goes together, if that makes sense. So yeah, just don't be afraid of color. Color is so much fun to play with, especially with your knitting. That's actually the best way. And sewing, if you like to sew, or if you like to spin yarn, that's a really fun way too. Like you can do singles in different areas and then put them together and cause really cool barber pulling, which is what's going on here. So Crazy Yarn is a perfect example of that, where you've got like this deep maroon color, and then it's barber pulled, so it's a single spun or plied up with a dark blue, and it looks really cool. I love how that looks. So play with colors, it's so much fun. So that's that. Like I said, I did not knit a whole lot this week other than my test knit, but the thing is that test knit I need to work on a lot. I think she has until the end of May, which is a decent amount of time to do it, so I should be fine. But usually it takes me a couple months to make larger objects like this. So I think I can say kind of what the item is without giving away information. I won't say how it's styled. I won't give any texture or anything away. I'm not going to give away who the designer is. I'm working on a sweater. There you go. So as you can see, that's going to take a little bit of time. Most of the time when I make sweaters, it takes me a good 3 months. But then again, I usually work on a lot of projects at the same time, so that makes a lot of sense that it would take that long. But then also, I can't just work on it, because then I have nothing to talk about knitting wise, which to me is kind of a shame. I like to talk about that stuff and engage with you guys over that. So I will always work a little bit on another project unless I get down to that deadline and I'm not done yet. Then I'm going to have to hunker down. Okay, so we're going to talk about the book. Again, I can't really give too much away because I do not like spoilers with books. And and that's not my thing. I do more knitting, but I did this kind of life oriented now that I'm getting into my hobbies here. So Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I am still, or Moss, Sarah J. Maas. I am still reading this one very religiously. As you can see, I have made progress. I have now something has happened that is interesting. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but it's getting fascinating. And they talk about it on the back of the book. So if you read that, the little like synopsis of the book, it does kind of give an idea that something might be going on. And now we're kind of getting a hint or like a glimpse into what might be going on during this. I'll look on the back here because, again, I do not want to ruin anything. Yes, people, certain people, well, it does say competitors, so I can say that. There are competitors. So the main character is part of this thing. You should read the back of the book, really, but the competitors that she's going up against, some are starting to mysteriously, something happens to them. And it's now just starting to happen. So that part is fascinating. But the good news is, leading up to that point, it is interesting. This book is very interesting. I really like the characters. The main character is great. I really like her. I think that if you didn't like the main character, you probably wouldn't like the series because the whole series is wrapped around her, is my understanding, because she's the main character. And the cool part is, my understanding is that there's different books. Each book has different perspectives. So like this one is primarily her perspective. I think the next couple books are like that too. And then, at least that's my understanding. And then there, after that, you start getting into some books that might have 6 perspectives going on at once from 6 different people, which that's sounds hard to keep track of, but it also sounds very interesting, because of course they're all different characters. They probably all think about things differently and view things differently, and that could be fascinating. I'm really enjoying this, you guys. I'm trying to suck people into this. Not sponsored. I bought this with my money. But yes, I am understanding. I am understanding why people like this author, and I'm quite enjoying it. Very easy to read. You have to remember, when I read, I usually read for maybe 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Might get lucky and get about a half hour of reading in. So that's why this progress is not a lot, but you have to remember each chapter is only maybe 5 pages or something. So the chapters are relatively short. So it's pretty easy to read. You can stop and go without much issue. I have heard that you can get kind of sucked into books though. And these people that read these books in a week, I like, not books plural, like read multiple books in 1 week. I don't really understand that. I don't. I guess if you want to challenge yourself, but when I read, I like to escape into the story and really get sucked into it. And if I was to try to like just plow through a book that quickly, I just don't think that I would truly enjoy it. I feel like you'd almost have to read it again. So anyway, there you go. There's my little bit of touch on that. Every time I talk about this book, it's probably just going to be like a little touch on it because I literally only read like a couple chapters a week. I just don't have the time to do more than that, but it is really a treat. And like I said, I've been reading this on my lunch breaks, which that's unique for me. I usually don't do that. I keep looking at my microphone because I literally think it's going to die every time. These are new. It should be fine. But I'm a little paranoid now that that last video was so quiet. I don't know why. Because I know the microphone was still working last video because I was looking at it and it was working. So hopefully we don't have any problems with it this time around. Oh gosh. So, are you guys reading any interesting books? I'd love to hear about it. I know everybody has their different kind of flavor of books that they like. I definitely, this is unique for me. So, I tend to read historical fiction, and so I really like a lot of those kind of things. I do like thrillers. Not gore. I'm not a gore person. The closest thing to that is Dracul, and that's not really gore. That's definitely thriller, a little bit horror, I guess, but like old horror. It's very much written like Dracula. And I'm trying to think of some of the other books that I enjoyed recently, like The Devil in the White City. That one is a historical fiction, so it brings in some history, but it's also, it's a story. They have some fun with it, but it's really interesting. I like that one a lot. So it's hard to tell because this is fantasy. This is totally different than some of the other things that I've read, but that's fun. This is fun because it takes me into a whole world that's been created that isn't here. Like Devil in the White City takes place in Chicago, and so that I related to because I grew up an hour north of Chicago, so it's kind of like I used to go to Chicago all the time. So for me, it was a flashback to the World Fair, which is really neat historically. So reading about that was fascinating, and they would talk about the water tower and things like that, and I can picture those buildings, and so that's really interesting, that connection to my actual world, right? Like the things around me. But then it's really fun to escape into a place like this where you've got these characters that are completely made up. They're completely made up, and it's really fun. It's really fun. So I'm very much enjoying it. And there was some character in here that I have to say said something that literally made me say out loud, like, what a jerk. And that's putting it nicely because I actually said something else. but, but he was not very nice to her, I have to say. Yeah, but I don't want to ruin that for you guys. Definitely, definitely see if you can get your hands on one of these. If you can find it used, you are so fortunate. If you can find it used and a good deal, that's what I should say. I should put it that way. Or if somebody happens to be like willing to share it with you, or if you can get it from the library, you should definitely try it out. See what you think. I started by reading it from the library. Let's see. I wanted to read from the library. I put a hold on it, and then I found out that with my Kindle, I could get a sample of it from Amazon. So I started reading the sample, and then I was getting hooked. And then amazingly, as I was getting done almost, I was getting frustrated because I was almost done with the sample. My library book came in, and I was so excited, and so I started reading it, and I knew I wanted to buy it because I really liked it, and I am not a super fast reader, as I've mentioned. So the library book naturally had holds on it, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to get it back for a while. And when you get sucked into a story, you do not want to wait for it to come back to the library. So yes, I did. I splurged, and they happened to be on sale, so that was a great deal. So that's the thing. By all means, see if you can find them used. I'm all for that. But definitely look, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, you may have to buy them new because it's actually cheaper most times. I'm a big cost comparison person, and honestly, I really found it to be cheaper to buy them brand new. A lot of that too is because most people aren't selling them. If they're selling them, they're selling the first editions, which those are extremely expensive, hundreds of dollars. Unless you want a collector's edition and that's your thing, you're looking at hundreds of dollars. So these were very reasonable. They were under $10 a book, which to buy them brand new or used for under $10 a book, it was really hard to find them for that. Usually they were about $10 used because it might be like $5 and then the shipping was $5. So, there you go. All right. There's my little spiel again. I'm going to constantly talk about that book. I really like it. I really like that series. It's fun. And that's the first book. I haven't even made it to the rest of them yet. And I'm very much enjoying it. So I'm looking forward to each book. And I'm excited that there's so many. There's 8 books. So that will last me a while and get to savor it. Okay. So I think that's it. Hopefully I didn't run out. Life update, end of things. So I think we're going to be able to shear the sheep next week. My goal is Friday of next week to shear the sheep. So we have 3 Shetland sheep if you're new and you happen to still be with me. I'm glad you guys are still here. We have 3 Shetland sheep that are super fluffy right now, and as most of the folks around me are dealing with, we have been dealing with insane fluctuations in our weather. And if you have sheep that spend primarily like most of their time outside, and so they may get rained on, snowed on, things like that, you have to be careful about shearing them, is my understanding, because if you shear them and they're going to be out in those elements and it's really cold, it can be jarring to them. And I don't want to make them sick. I don't want to cause problems. So I've been monitoring the weather, and it looks like it's going to start to really get moderate and mild and consistent in the coming week here. So, and it won't snow and rain the next day because this weekend was a tentative date. And when I looked at it again, I was like, no way, because Saturday it's supposed to be in the 50s, and then Sunday it's supposed to be cold and rainy and snowy and 28 degrees Fahrenheit at night. So that is really cold, and the sheep will not be happy with me at that point, and I wouldn't be either. So, so that's not good. I'm going to blade shear them. I have blade shears. Um, yes, I guess that's, some people think that's crazy, but I think it's better for me and the sheep. For me, it's less intimidating because I don't have this insanely loud electrical thing that I could just slice them open really easily without even trying. And gosh, that's terrifying. Um, I think it's much better to take it slower, to use the shears, and then I can really feel what I'm doing, pay attention to what I'm doing, and take it a little bit slower. So that's my plan. That's what I'm gonna do. um, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm also really, really, really excited because I cannot wait to be able to play with their wool. It will be a little longer because obviously I don't want to freeze to death washing it, but now that it'll be getting in the 60s and 50s as the highs, that more consistently, that's really good, because when it gets in the 60s, especially when it hits the 70s, it needs to be 70s or above to do the suet method. I don't know if I'm going to do the suet method with their fleeces. Their fleeces are not terribly dirty. I mean, they're dirty, don't get me wrong. They don't have coats on them. But compared to some of the fleeces that I've gotten that are like considered burn pile, where they weren't bred for their fleeces, that there's a lot of debris in them and like a lot of dirt and gunk and stuff, where our Shetlands aren't that bad. So I think I can clean their fleeces more along the lines of doing a soak, and then maybe doing some scouring, but probably not a lot of scouring, because I like to leave their lanolin in there, and oh, it's so wonderful. So anyway, I'm really excited. The colors are so beautiful. The one fun thing about Shetland sheep, I'm sure many are like this, but Shetlands for sure, because they come in 11 different colors, and they, as like lambs, they change color. So they might look one way, and then as they get older and as their wool grows out, it changes. So their first fleece is their most unique fleece, is my understanding, and it'll like be a fade from one color to the next. So it's really pretty. I'm really excited to work with it. Each one is a little different. Yes, very exciting. And then we have our 2 lambs coming in the coming weeks here. The I think the 19th of April we'll be getting them. That's the one we can bring them home. It'll either be that weekend or the following, which is perfect in my mind, because I just feel like eventually getting them introduced to the other sheep, it'll be easier to do while the sheep are still trying to figure out who each other is. I don't know if that's very true. For those of you that have sheep, I know a few of you viewers do have sheep. Do your sheep get totally confused with each other when you shear them? I heard that they literally have to figure out who each other is after they get shorn, but I thought that was really funny. So it'll be interesting to see how that all works out. I will be kind of fasting the sheep the best I can. It's very tricky because of where we keep them, but I just won't feed them as much as I normally do that day, just so that way I can hopefully keep them a little more comfortable, because I don't want them to have full rumens, like full tummy, because it really can make them really uncomfortable, and that'll make them squirm and move around a lot more too. So one, it's not very safe for them, and it's definitely not very safe for me. So hopefully that'll all be good. All right, so I think that's about it for this week's video. It ended up being long anyway. Unbelievable. See, I could gab on all day if I want to. Well, I hope you guys are doing well, and yeah, I hope you're making. I look forward to chatting with you soon. Take care.